Good morning and welcome. It is May 16th, 2023. It is a beautiful day in Southeast Wisconsin where I'm coming to you from, and I'm excited to welcome you to another Taco Tuesday here at WiLS. We are joined today by four amazing vendor partners, and we are going to get right into it. So I'm pleased to introduce joining us from the page, Sarah Broomfield. Sarah, are you ready to take over?
I am.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then it'll be all yours.
Okay. A second. Okay, sharing. There we go. So I'm Sarah Brumfield with From the Page. We're a crowdsourcing platform that libraries and archives use for outreach and collaboration. We like to say that we're democratizing the production of history in a grand collaboration between the public and professionals. That's when we're feeling a bit grandiose, but on the day-to-day basis, we're a transcription, description, indexing platform. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is 6 different things that you can do with crowdsourcing. So, the one that probably comes to mind when you think about crowdsourcing, if you think about crowdsourcing, is transcribing text. And that's definitely true for a large number of our projects. So the first example I have to show you today is a project from the Indianapolis Public Library, and it's a letter from Jane Addams to May Wright Sewell, who was an Indianapolis mover and shaker in social movements. And all this project did is transcribe the text verbatim. That's one thing that you can do. But you can also do projects like this. On the left is a project from the North Carolina archives. It's a textual transcription, just like the previous one, but the transcriber also went and found a modern representation of the recipe that they transcribed. And if you look at the very bottom here, you'll see that there's a note, and it has a link to an all recipes recipe that I screenshotted on the right. And it's the same recipe, which is kind of a neat, deep interaction with this text. So in addition to the North Carolina archives getting their recipe books transcribed, then there's also kind of this deep thinking by somebody who did the volunteer work, and a reference that can be used. Sometimes we'll see things like there's a lighthouse keeper's logs that was transcribed, and there's a shipwreck that's mentioned, and the transcriber goes and finds the contemporary newspaper account and brings that in, and that's turned into an exhibit at the lighthouse. So it's a very deep engagement with text. There's even a classroom at Wake Forest University that's also transcribing some early modern recipe books, and then the students are taking those recipes and they're doing projects around them. So even deeper interaction with these historical texts. The other thing that we help people do on our platform is indexing and annotating text. So this is a project from Berea College in Kentucky. Kentucky in the early 19th century had a number of utopian religious communities, including the Shakers. The Shakers kept journals of all their spiritual visions. So one of the history professors at Berea had his students analyze these journals by transcribing them and then indexing the terms in the text. Terms like the angel love, the angel Vicalin. I need to turn that off. Ugh. Right. Students transcribing the text and then indexing terms like the angel love or the angel Vicalin, and then they can write short articles about it and link out to other resources, and you can actually even link within those articles. So it's a way to kind of enhance the text. We see a lot of documentary editions that do this type of work with the text as well. So the next thing that people do From the Page is they transcribe and index forms. So this is a project from the UK National Archives. It's a copyright form for art and graphics. And you can see it's very different from the ones we've looked at before, which were kind of full text transcription. This has drop downs for what type of page it is, numbers that you can fill in, text boxes for descriptions. So longer lines, some inline instructions. one of the really fun things about this project is that 2 of the active transcribers on the project go really deep, like I've been showing you. So there's a link to the artwork that's mentioned in the comments on the page. Then they have this discussion about the people mentioned, and because it's kind of confusing because there's a Mr. Poole and a Mr. Toole. Mr. Poole was the writer and Mr. Toole was the actor, but they kind of dig in and clarify that. People are also doing projects where they identify photographs. So this works best with a well-scoped set of photographs. So this example I'm going to show you is from the Indianapolis Public Library. And it's photographs of unidentified public parks. And they used a controlled vocabulary of park names in the dropdown to let volunteers identify the park. So by having that kind of limited number of possibilities, it makes those projects a lot more successful, because if you ask people to identify other people, it's a lot more difficult. You'll end up with a lot of, that looks like my grandpa, which may not actually be the case. Grandpa may just have the same facial hair and similar clothing. So if there's a known list or field of people or places, maybe if you run the project privately with a set of experts, then you're more likely to successfully identify photos. But even when you have a controlled list of things like parks, you may have material that doesn't fit in, like this one. It's not a park, but it's a site of another place in Indianapolis, and the volunteer who was identifying it definitely identified it and provided a lot of details on where exactly it is and the things that you can locate in the picture that kind of prove that that's where it is. And we also see people on projects like this adding things like this, Google Street Views of the same spot. So the historic photograph on the left and then Google Street View on the right are of very similar places. That red brick building is the same that you see in the background on the photograph, which that again is just the kind of dedication and passion that volunteers bring to projects like this. You can also index records. So this is one of the more interesting indexing projects we've seen from the Texas State Archives. So they had existing handwritten indexes for the records for the Texas State Court of Appeals. They are from the 19th century and the early 20th century. And to use this, even the digitized copy, you had to page through this alphabetical list of appellants and appellees, looking for the person or the company you were interested in and hoping that they would be in these court cases. So the Texas State Archives ran this as an internal staff project, and they indexed this book. They indexed the index, and then once they were done, they were able to. So this is indexing the index from the page using a spreadsheet form, and then once they were done, they were able to export it as a spreadsheet, and then they were able to incorporate it into the Texas Digital Archive. So they incorporated it in a couple of different ways, one as a spreadsheet and one as this kind of lookup table. So they pulled it into Preservica and then created this lookup table based on the spreadsheet. So now you can kind of do queries like we often do in the web to find out whether there's a court case related to the company or the individual you're interested in. And then you can go read the original. So people also use FromThePage to create metadata. So we first saw this in a project at Ohio University, and they were describing dance posters. And this dance poster project was kind of a trial, and they used the same kind of form-based transcription I showed you earlier to gather metadata about the dance posters. This worked really well because a dance poster is one image. It's harder to create metadata for multi-page images. So we worked with the Council of State Archivists to create a metadata form. So you can see here, you can actually page through the 4 pages of this letter and use that to fill out metadata about this item. We also give you the opportunity to look at the text. So if you run a transcription project and then ask people to describe the item, you can go back and forth between the images, the text, and if you uploaded original metadata, you can actually look at original metadata as well. And then the librarians and the archivists create this form on the right that is the data that they are trying to get. So they're actually using a controlled vocabulary of authors and recipients and then different other fields. So that's kind of the 6 projects I wanted to show you, the 6 types of crowdsourcing projects. We actually support a lot more that kind of get more in the weeds and get a little bit more complicated, but I challenge you to think about what you could do with crowdsourcing. And we love to talk about this, brainstorm projects, think about how you could accomplish something that's a little bit weird or different. So I invite you to contact us. We'd love to chat.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm always really impressed when I have Sarah on here, because I just can't, sometimes it boggles the mind, the level of work that's done by the crowd.
Right.
That, like, not only the volume, but like the depth and like the quality that you can get out of something like that. It's truly impressive. So
Yeah,
very
people love
exciting.
to do this work. It's fun.
Yeah, it's super, super cool. So I would encourage anyone watching, if you want to know more, please reach out to us here at WiLS, reach out to Sarah or at contact information provided there, and we'll make sure that there's contact information in the follow-up email that comes after the session today. Thanks so much, Sarah.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Have a great rest of the day. Well, we're a few minutes ahead of schedule, but our next presenter, Catherine from Cambridge University Press, is here. Catherine, are you ready to start?
Sure, I'd be happy to start whenever.
Okay, so I'm pleased to introduce Catherine Mannion, joining us today from Cambridge University Press for Taco Tuesday. Catherine, over to you.
All right, thanks. Let me just get my screen share up. And there's always a bar in the way here. Okay. Great. So hi, everybody. I'm very excited to be presenting today for Taco Tuesday. This is my first one. I'm fairly new at Cambridge. I've been here for about 2 years. Previously was a public librarian for about 20 years. So this was my pandemic pivot. And just a little more about Cambridge. We are a nonprofit. We are the publishing arm of Cambridge University. And we've got a lot of exciting stuff going on. And since it seems like it's been a while since we presented to WiLS, I thought I'd go ahead and just do a quick overview of everything that we have to offer. And then if you want to know more about anything, please feel free to get in touch. So today I'm just going to go through, we have quite a few digital books, ebooks, and series. We've got other digital products, sort of database type products. We have textbooks, and then we also have journals. So I'll just kind of cover each of those areas and what we have to offer in each. So for ebooks, we do have title by title purchasing through Gobi, but lots of libraries really love the EBA model of evidence-based acquisitions. So through the EBA model, you would get access to a large volume of materials. You have that access all year. You would put down a deposit, and then at the end of the year, you get the full value of your deposit to spend on perpetual purchases from that collection. So basically, you can use all the titles all year long. You get to keep the titles that you've decided to keep based on that usage data. We send quarterly usage statistics. We send monthly updates and MARC records. So again, this has been really popular with academic libraries just because you get so much value for your dollars. You get ebooks for the full amount of your deposit, but then you also get basically free access to a whole breadth of collection. Our biggest collections are the full EBA. We also have humanities and social sciences only. We have STEM only. And then we also have subject areas as well. So if you're a medical library or a law library and you're interested in a very subject focused EBA, we can definitely do that as well. And I've also just shared here some of the titles that we've put out. We publish about 1,500 ebooks a year, and you do get access to new titles as they're published. There's no embargo period. If you have an EBA, as soon as a new title comes out, you get access to that title. So that's been great, and lots of libraries really love that model. We also have our Cambridge Companions. Many of you are probably familiar with this series. You might have print volumes on the shelves. Cambridge Companions. We have over 800 titles now. We do offer those. You can get lease access to the whole collection for the year, or they're available for perpetual purchase. Some libraries love to weed the print volumes and then get digital access, of course, which provides more access to distance learners, a more accessible format. So it's just really nice to have those in digital as well as in print. We also have our Cambridge Histories. That's another of our flagship series. Cambridge Histories is a deeper dive, so you can see on kind of a broader topic. For example, below you can see we have the Cambridge History of Terrorism. We've also recently published the Cambridge History of Violence and Slavery, and those are multi-volume sets because they do just a really nice deep dive. And those are available title by title. We don't have a lease option for Cambridge Histories, but any volumes that you want to purchase, you can buy, or if you wanted to get a big section or a full year of content, we can do discounting as well. And that's another one. There may be some of these on your shelves in your library. If you have space needs, you're looking to sort of downsize your print collection. We do have a lot of these available digital. So these four are more of our database products. We do have a Cambridge Shakespeare database that gives you access to, we do Shakespeare survey volumes every year. There's also play texts and notes from contemporary productions. There's multimedia content to just show you how other people are presenting Shakespeare currently. Stall Online is our psychopharmacological database. That one's been really popular with medical schools and psychology studies programs. Dr. Stall has authored a prescriber's guide as well as a portfolio of other titles. So a subscription to Stall Online gets you access to all of those titles that, again, folks in psychopharmacology really like to see. There's also a drug interaction database so that if they're prescribing, they can look up drug interactions there on our site. So that one, again, is popular with medical schools. HOMSI, Multimedia Fluid Mechanics Online. This is a great one for engineering. It's got all of these beautiful visualizations of how fluid mechanics works. So just the different kinds of flows and I'm not an engineer, but I know that engineering departments do enjoy it. It's a great way to demonstrate for students, to let them sort of play with fluid mechanics and see what the effects are of different changes. And then we also have Orlando, which is a feminist resource for the history of women's writing in the British Isles. If you've got feminist studies or women's literature class, that could be a really good resource. Again, covering publishing from women in the UK, past, present, and future. Also, all of these products are available for a free trial. If it's something that you think you'd like to look at, or you'd like a department or faculty to look at, we can set you up with a trial to evaluate any of these resources. We also have textbooks, and I know, every school sort of handles textbooks differently, and every publisher also has sort of different models for textbooks. The way that Cambridge's model works is it is a lease access model, so you can pay for an annual lease to a single title, you can do a subject collection, we can match against your institution's textbook adoptions and get you discounted pricing that way. So this is just to provide digital access to textbooks that your professors may already be assigning. Alternately, if you subscribe to the full platform of 1,000+ titles, this is a nice sort of faculty relations piece where you can come to your faculty and say, the textbook choice is up to you, but we have this great database of textbooks from Cambridge that they can adopt any of them. These are unlimited simultaneous access. Everyone in the class can be using the textbook at the same time, and funded by the library. So it's a nice kind of inclusive access model for textbooks that the library can, sort of toot your own horn about providing some great resources to the wider campus. We are also all in on open access publishing. Cambridge University Press has set some ambitious goals for trying to get our journals to fully open access. We're really pushing hard to get things open as much as we can by 2025. In February, we just announced that over 50% of the articles published in our journals now are now published open access. And you can see the chart on the side here shows the progress that our journals have made over the last 5 or 6 years of going from, quite a few being non-OA to now really most of them are hybrid or gold. So we're excited about that initiative. We are signing transformative agreements to help with this process with schools of all sizes. We have been able to really keep pricing pretty flat over what you may be paying for Cambridge journals now. And I'd love to talk to anybody who's interested in a transformative agreement, just to talk a little further about what's entailed in that. You would get access to our full package of journals. So we currently have 408 titles. You get perpetual access to everything that's published during the term of the agreement. It's usually a 3-year term. And then each journal also comes with some lease access to the archive. So you get quite a bit of read access to the journals. And then any articles published by your faculty, staff, graduate students in Cambridge journals are eligible to have an APC waived through this transformative agreement. And you can see below, I've kind of included some of our most popular journals. One of our strengths is that we have a lot of journals in the HSS fields. Sometimes open access publishing can be really directed towards STEM, whereas we have, we've got journals in music and classics and literature and history so that professors in those departments have the opportunity to publish OA through a transformative agreement as well. This has been very popular. We're signing these left and right. We'd love to have more transformative agreements in Wisconsin. Some of your colleagues certainly have them and they're going pretty well. So we're very excited about this initiative, and we want everybody to have the opportunity to be a part of it and to sort of contribute towards this new open access environment. It's great for faculty, it's great for the library, it's great for the publisher. I feel like we're all potentially benefiting from making research more open, more available, more accessible. And that is all I've got. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Catherine. For anyone who's here live in session, if you've got a question for Catherine, please feel free to put your hand up or throw something into the Q&A or chat windows. I'm really excited to have you here today, Catherine. I don't know how to put this. I think on paper, Cambridge University Press and WiLS have been partners for a long time, but we really have not done much together.
Right.
But Catherine signed up to be in Taco Tuesday and reached out. We just had a meeting, I think, last week. I'm excited about doing some more together and helping our members be able to get access to some of the really tremendous resources that they can get from the University Press there. So. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having us. And yeah, we're if you're a library in Wisconsin, I am your Cambridge rep. So please feel free to get in touch. It doesn't have to be for a quote. If you have access issues, if you have questions about title availability, like I'm also here to support you. But yeah, if you're looking for pricing or additional information, please contact WiLS. We'd love to have more business coming through WiLS for sure. We love Wisconsin, and I am from Iowa, so we're practically neighbors.
Wonderful. Okay, great. Well,
thank you so much.
I haven't seen any questions come in so far, so if we do, Catherine, we will be in touch with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. All right, I'm actually going to just flip us back to our title screen just one time to kind of reset. For our next presenter here on Taco Tuesday. Joining us today from Digital Theater Plus is Lauren. Lauren, are you on the line?
I'm here, and I'm here with Matt too. Matt's on.
Oh, great. Hello to both of you. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you can take the reins, and it's all over to you.
Thanks, Jeff. Matt, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sounds great here. So thank you very much, Jeff, for the opportunity here to continue to work with Wisconsin schools through WiLS and the opportunity to present a little bit more information. Here we go. All right, so My name, Matthew Bielak. I work with our secondary schools here, mostly middle and high schools, worked with a few elementary schools in the past, but really fit middle schools, high schools, and universities and colleges. If you have questions about your specific school, please reach out to me, and questions for Lauren with higher education to direct towards her. But the simple summary of our platform, if you're not familiar, is it's a student and teacher-facing learning platform to help connect students in ELA and theater classes and programming to their dramatic text, poetry, and performance. We're working with a number of schools over the past few years, some at the district level. They will set up a subscription across multiple institutions that they work with, while others on an individual basis, and a number of universities here as well. But to give you some context here, give a quick tour of our platform. Our platform will range from a number of classics like Shakespeare and Animal Farm, but also bring in some contemporary pieces that you may not be as familiar with in smaller companies like Paper Birds in Australia. So a nice mixture there of some of the classics and some new materials. But for just kind of a scope of all of the resources available within our table of contents, you can see all of the performances we have. And if you were looking for materials specific to like musical theater or dramas, you can use these filters together, or you can be filtering for a specific course outline that maybe you've been covering, themes as well. This especially gets used with the poetry recital resource type. So to try and find resources related to those themes. And then especially at university level, looking at some different production companies and the resources available through them. We have ongoing partnerships with many of these production companies that Lauren can elaborate a little bit more on, but usually we're publishing about 10 new pieces of content a week. Some of them are performances, some are e-learning videos, some are interviews. And with this video resource, you can kind of filter for those different areas, like the workshops, again, the different filters that are available. As far as written resources that are student-facing, graphic novels have been really popular lately amongst teachers, but also study guides that won't necessarily reinvent the wheel. A lot of teachers said, they have different ideas or graphic organizers, but the key is it's saving time and that the resources are easy to distribute to students, whether that's over Google Classroom or Canvas or having printouts of these resources, but just to help save some time or provide opportunities for extension activities or for students that maybe were absent. And then we have a number of teaching resources, lesson plans that are aligned to Common Core standards, but also lesson plans of just a different way to approach a familiar topic like Shakespearean insults or couples therapy between Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. So depending on if you have teachers, especially in like their first 3 years that we hear need a little bit more lesson plan support, or teachers that have been teaching it for 15 years and want to try something new. There's also resources grouped on various skills as we're hearing more about standards-based grading or competency-based grading. And so these resources aren't necessarily grouped on a title like Romeo and Juliet, but are grouped across those different areas. And we have a wide library here as well for poetry. A number of speech classes and debate classes use a number of these resources to help present for their own clubs and after school programs as well as their classes. And then for the theater aspect, same a set of types of resources outlined based on skills. So if there are specific areas that you or one of your colleagues are interested in learning more about, Lauren and I are happy to send over some recommendations. And maybe it comes from the wide range of series here. Are You Teaching is really popular because these are just straight handbooks of a number of different topics that may be covered in a theater class. And so we're happy to source those recommendations for you, as looking through thousands of resources on a platform can be a bit overwhelming. So based on the interests of yourself or your colleagues, we can help to provide some of those recommendations. So that's kind of the really quick overview, but really happy to go through personalized recommendations. Lauren, passing it over to you. I know that you have a little bit more information on like our partnership series and just kind of our history with working with some schools here in WiLS.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Matt. So I'm just gonna share really quick too, just because why not? So okay, cool. So really similar to what Matt does, obviously, just like on the higher ed side of it. And with how Matt can do for secondary schools and high schools and all of that, you could set filters. I don't really have that with higher education, but he has a few different tabs than I do. But again, really just the same thing here. Our site's pretty straightforward. On the main landing page, you have the what's new category. And like Matt said, we're adding things on a rolling basis. I always like to tell my professors that Digital Theater Plus is literally like a living, breathing project. You know, it's something that is ever evolving and ever changing with the times. We really like to stay current with what's going on. We love adding all different types of resources, and we really are expanding in the diversity category. We're expanding our English literature resources. So we're really listening to what you guys want to see more of, and we have been consistently adding things on a rolling basis, which makes the platform stay super fresh and super alive. It's a living, breathing project. I love to talk about that because you're always going to see something new on here, which I think is amazing. So just wanted to say that. And yeah, our partnerships, we've partnered with some really great theater companies. I'm just going to go through that really quick because Matt already took you through there. But so, and really cool too on the side here, there's a bunch of filters that you can use if you're looking for something very specific. But if you go to production companies, you'll see we've partnered with some really great theater companies here. Broadway HD is actually our exclusive educational partner. So anything that's able to be shown in an educational setting, we have the rights to through them. So all of our Broadway HD content on here, it's not every title, but it's everything that we have the rights to that they actually have the rights to as well. And we are constantly adding titles from them as well. So some really cool partnerships. We also, something really cool that we've added recently, I think this was last year, we've added the Augusto Boal collection. Super excited to have that. That was a big win for us. So we're excited to have that. We feature Augusto Boal and his entire estate's collection on Digital Theater Plus. We've partnered with Ann Bogart and Katie Mitchell. Her audiobook is on here, The Art of Resonance. You hear from a lot of professors that I speak to on a daily basis that they have students that learn in all different types of ways. And so you have the option here, which is nice. If somebody's not as visual as somebody else in the classroom and they'd rather listen to something like a podcast style or something like that, we give you those options, which is great because not everybody learns the same. So we have her audiobook on here. We've partnered with her. We have webinars that are run 4 to 5 times a year. There's a really great one coming up that Matt's going to tell you about, but we did just have one with Luis Valdez, and we have some resources on here as well, but we just had him on here in conversation with Edward James Olmos. And so that was a really great webinar that we did. And we have Zoot Suit by him, and we have some video resources with him as well. Another great thing about digital theater that I think sets us apart from a lot of our other competitors, if you will, is that we have a lot of the behind the scenes footage and the interviews and just backstage camera crew people talking together. They're in conversation. You're really seeing like what goes on behind the scenes. And that's something different that we do, that we offer on our platform that you're not going to find anywhere else. We have all different types of series. We have a key concepts series where we talk about various different topics, theater history, theater for social change. There's a Shakespeare series. So just a lot, there's a lot on here to go through and to comb through, but it's fun, it's exciting, it remains fresh and alive for your students. We're constantly adding new things, constantly taking recommendations on where we could be better in adding new things. So we definitely take that into consideration. Once you're a subscriber of ours, so we really look to you guys for the feedback on, well, where should we go with this? Like, what should we do? So yeah, a lot of just cool and exciting things coming up. Matt's going to tell you about another webinar that we have coming up. And just so you guys know, our webinars are totally free. Anyone can come. You don't have to be a subscriber to come to one of our webinars. And students also are able to join. Matt, what's our next upcoming webinar?
about improv. And we are really excited that we have the Director of Talent Development and Director of Talent of Second City here in Chicago that's going to be one of the panelists. There's going to be other teachers, actors, theater makers. And of course, since it held over the summer, those that register will get a copy of the recording. But we know that there's a number of theater teachers that have already said they're going to be using this for some of their summer school, their summer programming, but also just really curious to check it out. And a few teachers are saying they're implementing some of our how to improv activities at this time of the school year, just with students that are so excited to get to summer break that this is one way that they're using to keep students' attention. But to hear from experts of Second City, I think is an awesome opportunity that we're really proud of. And so that's free to all. Register if you're not available at Thursday morning, 10 o'clock on June 10th. Get the recording. Some teachers have already said they're watching it with some of their other colleagues at like a district PD summer check-in. So those types of opportunities. But yeah, beyond the resources is trying to provide the teach the teacher model so they can pass on those types of learnings to their students as opposed to just showing performances like our platform used to be 10 years ago. Now having that teaching kind of an aspect and the student support piece.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Yeah, so in conclusion, and Jeff, I don't know if you've ever been to Second City before. I know you're in Wisconsin. I'm sure you've been to Chicago Second City. But our aim in digital theater is just to make the arts accessible for everyone. We offer very high quality material, especially our productions that you're not going to find anywhere else. So we're excited to share this with our Wisconsin educators. And yeah, let Matt or I know if you guys have any questions. We're always happy to help, always happy to jump on a call, show you anything that you want to see. And yeah, reach out if you have any questions. And thanks, Jeff, for having us.
Thank you so much, Matt and Lauren, for joining us today. I'm always excited to see what you've got at Digital Theater and what's new. I agree. I've been here at WiLS long enough, and we've been partners long enough for when Matt says, well, 10 years ago, here's what Digital Theater was like. I remember that. And yeah, it's come leaps and bounds since then. So I'm really thrilled to see what's new and what's on offer for our members.
Yes, and just I forgot to say that too. Anybody that subscribes with Digital Theater through WiLS, you will be given some kind of discount with us. So just wanted to.
Fantastic. Thanks again, Lauren and Matt. And although I love visiting Chicago, I have never been to see Second City. So if I haven't had a chance to see it live, maybe I'll see it on Digital Theater, but maybe I'll get a chance to go.
You have to go, Jeff. Well. It's awesome. You have to go.
I'd love to. All right. Well, when I'm there, I'll let you know. We'll meet up. All right. Well, thanks again to our friends from Digital Theater for joining us today. And with that, I think we're ready to introduce our final presentation today. Let me share my screen one more time just to get us set up for that. Joining me today is Victor from Scrible. Victor, I'm happy to have you here joining us at WiLS again. We love meeting with Scrible and helping spread the word on what you've got to offer. Victor, are you ready to take over? Oh, you are muted.
Sorry, yes, I'm ready to go. I just need your permission to be able to share my screen.
All right, I think. Okay. Is it? Oh, I'm going to stop sharing mine. Is that allowing you to share yours now?
Let me check. Let me try again. One sec.
No problem.
Sorry, one sec. I think this should work. Okay. You should see a slide that says Scribble on it now, yes?
Yep, looks good.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much for having us again. This is not our first rodeo. We've done Taco Tuesday before, and I'm excited to speak with you all again. One very important difference, though, for folks that may have seen us before on Taco Tuesday or a previous webinar, is that we've got some new stuff to talk about, given what's going on in the world. And so I'm going to dive into that and give you a little overview before I get into the details. But, welcome everybody. My name is Victor. I'm co-founder and CEO of Scrible. And, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we do, but a little bit of background real quick first. You see at the top of this slide that, as a company, we have been supported by the National Science Foundation and the U.S. Department of Education. Scrible is what we call a super app for research and writing. So it's actually kind of a classroom instructional tool that students and educators, teachers and librarians would use together to help them through the research and writing process. And this is a problem that I felt originally. So I'm one of the founders, and this is my baby. And we started this company because I needed something like this, which I'm going to show you, originally as a student and later also sort of in the workplace. And so we'll get into some details, but before we do, I just wanted to give a little bit of a kind of a very quick two-part overview of the agenda, which is for folks that have seen us before, part one will probably be, familiar. I'm going to do a quick overview of what Scrible is. And then the new thing that we're going to talk about, which we haven't really talked about in any great detail, and certainly not with you all, is how we can kind of help with some of the anxiety that a lot of educators are feeling right now around ChatGPT and the writing process, particularly with regards to AI plagiarism. So we'll talk about that, and that's new, and we can actually help with that in a way that I think a lot of people might be pleasantly surprised by. So let's give you the overview of what Scrible is all about. So this is the problem that we've been addressing, which is that more than half of our students in secondary, so grades 6 through 12, have been struggling with research skills, and a very high number of secondary students are not writing proficiently. And this is not a new problem. This has been going on for ages. Unfortunately, the data is actually pretty old, and there hasn't been more recent data, but it's a long-standing problem, basically, especially around the writing statistic that you see here at the bottom. And the pandemic made this worse. Part of the problem is that a lot of this work that you typically do, which involves sort of deep level knowledge work where students are writing papers or doing research projects and things like that, they're pretty involved. And historically, they've involved a lot of in-class check-ins with students face-to-face between teachers or librarians and students. And during the pandemic, what we saw was a lot of teachers and librarians kind of reduce, shorten, or abandon this kind of work just because it was logistically too complicated to do remotely, and so it just wasn't done as much. And so the reality is that over the last few years and over the next couple of years, we are seeing more students come into college that are more ill prepared than they were even in the pre-pandemic times. So the problem's gotten worse. And then these two little quotes kind of, I think, point out some of the root problems around writing. The Chronicle for Higher Education talks about how, for quite a few years now, there's been a decline for writing, and very few students have actually written the kinds of papers that we used to write, for example, when I was in school, where you get to get a lot of experience just practicing those important skills. The kinds of things that you typically develop in the writing process. There's skills around organization and synthesis and logical sequencing. Those critical thinking skills are really important for kind of work that you do in college. And unfortunately, a lot of kids in secondary, particularly in high school, just haven't been doing that as much as we'd all hoped. And then the quote down the bottom really talks about how the key problem, or one of the root problems, is that when you try to teach the kind of writing that is kind of generally recognized as academic writing and they're expected to do in college, it's nonfiction evidence-based writing. And it just takes a lot of time to teach. The nature of the beast is that it's just complicated, and it takes a while. And so, unlike math, which is more quantitative, and you might be able to sort of take it's a right or wrong answer type of approach to teaching and learning with it, or in reading, where you have a Lexile score that you can use to help benchmark students and group them and potentially provide support along the way according to those groups. Right. The nature of the beast with writing is that it just historically has required kind of more hands-on experience with the material itself. And so it is a heavy lift. And this problem has sort of gotten worse over the last year or so because of the teacher shortage, right? You just don't have as much time, as many resources with staff to be able to kind of tackle this work. And then I see that Karen from our team has just joined. So I'll kind of let her introduce herself a little bit at the end, but I'm going to keep going for now. And we'll talk a little bit at the end if anybody's interested in having a conversation. But, this problem that we have looked at deeply, we've dissected the workflow to try to understand why research and writing is so difficult. And one of the things that a lot of you probably recognize just from the work that you do with teachers and librarians, teachers and students, is that the research and writing process is just logistically complex, right? There's lots of tasks involved. Students have to do a lot of the things that you see here on the left-hand side, and maybe more or less depending on the kind of assignment that you're working on. But historically, you all and the teachers and students you work with have had to cobble together a lot of different tools to get through that workflow, right? You might have a standalone citation tool. You might have a standalone PDF annotation tool that helps you kind of highlight evidence in articles from databases, like some of the ones that were mentioned earlier today, or from Gale and EBSCO and things like that. You might have a bookmarking service or a web clipper to help you gather internet research. And then, you're inevitably writing in Google Docs or Microsoft Word. And so there are a lot of different tools to juggle to get through that process, which is not great for students because it leads to scattered work, and it's not always easy to stay organized with students doing that work. And for you all and for the teachers that you support and work with, it's hard to teach and track students through that process because all the student data and work is trapped in all these different data silos and these different ways of working. And so at Scrible, what we've really done is really kind of consolidate a lot of those tools under one roof. So we really help you we've helped streamline the workflow for students, and also centralize the work. So for you and for the teachers you work with, that work is more easily accessible, and it's really possible for you to assess it and provide feedback formatively along the way in one place in a way that historically just wasn't possible. The fastest and easiest way for me to show you how this works is that we actually have a kind of a brief 2-minute product explainer video that I oftentimes show, and I've done this before with WiLS. So I'm actually going to just turn up the volume on my computer here and let the video play for 2 minutes. And it doesn't go through every bell and whistle of what Scrible does, but it'll give you a really great understanding at a high level of what the platform does. And then I'll switch back over to the presentation and continue on. All right, so here we go.
Until now, students have had to use multiple separate tools for their research and writing work, making it time-consuming, frustrating, and hard to stay organized throughout the process. Scrible unites this disjointed workflow by bringing everything together under one roof. It's a super app for students, educators, and librarians to curate, annotate, cite, and write. With Scrible, curating information is easy. Scrible saves web pages, PDFs, and database articles instantly to a cloud-based library with just a click of the Scrible Chrome extension. You can also add files like PDFs from your desktop and Google Drive. You can richly annotate articles directly in the browser and even collaboratively annotate with others in real time. Citations are generated automatically. Scrible pulls citation information from articles and books and instantly displays the properly formatted citation. The Scrible library stores a wide variety of file and information formats. Stay organized by using full text search and tags to find articles. Scrible also empowers the writing process. Quickly generate an outline by dragging and dropping quotes and comments from your Scrible library. In Google Docs, the Scrible add-on allows you to access your library so you can easily insert your outline and bring your evidence, comments, and citations into the paper while automatically updating your bibliography. Scrible is deeply integrated with Google for Education, including roster sync and assignment integration with Google Classroom. Scrible also offers rich analytics for tracking student progress in real time. Quickly see which students are struggling and where they're stuck. Scrible centralizes student work, making it accessible in one place and enabling educators to easily provide timely feedback throughout the entire process. For students, Scrible frees up valuable time wasted on manual and mundane tasks for higher level learning, like reading critically for quality evidence and crafting strong arguments. For educators, Scrible enables personalized instruction for close reading, research, and writing. Sign up for a free account today and see what Scrible can do for you.
All right, so hopefully you're able to hear that okay. I'm going to go back to the presentation and just kind of pick up where we left off. So that gives you a quick overview of kind of what we do. And there's a couple things I wanted to point out. I know that many of you are probably using Google in your district or your school. And so this video was actually made for you, for that kind of an audience. But for those that are already using Microsoft, please know that everything we do that you saw in the video for the Google world, we do for the Microsoft world as well. So it's just that the video hasn't been updated to kind of include the Microsoft integrations, but know that we've got you covered as well. And then many of you may be using these products, and I wanted to let you know that we're partnered and integrated with them as well. And so that makes Scrible really easy to integrate, into your class and into your school. And tech departments and tech directors tend to like the fact that we have this compatibility with a lot of the platforms that are already being used out there. couple of things I also want to point out that are not in the video or not emphasized in the video. So one is that, and this is not even on this slide, so you'll just have to listen to me for a second while I talk about this. When a teacher creates an assignment in Scribble, we actually spawn what's called an assignment library for every student for that assignment. And that assignment library houses all the different components of their work, a lot of which was shown in the video. So there's a sources tab that shows you all the research articles that the students curated. There's an annotations tab that lets you see all the notes and highlights that they've added, basically their evidence at a more granular level. There's a bibliography tab that houses a bibliography editor that helps you generate a bibliography really quickly and easily. There's an outline tab that basically helps you create an outline through our outline editor. And there's even a papers tab where we embed the Google Docs viewer so you can see the paper. So for the student, all the work is consolidated in one place. And for a teacher or librarian that is co-teaching on that assignment, you have the ability to jump into each student's assignment library at any point during the process from the beginning when the assignment's actually first assigned, all the way until the end when it's submitted. And so you have this sort of unprecedented ability to look at student work as it's happening and provide formative feedback along the way, because we have a feedback mechanism that allows you to actually provide feedback on a lot of the pre-writing process in a way that historically just wasn't easy. So you could say, hey, Johnny, it's great that you've got 5 sources saved, but 3 of them are Wikipedia, and we talked about how that's not a credible source to quote. And so you can send that message, and then Johnny will actually see that in his account, and he can reply, and you have a threaded discussion. And whenever that issue is resolved, you can mark it resolved, and it takes it out of view in that feedback interface, kind of like how you might resolve a comment thread in Google Docs. So all that exists for you and the teachers that you work with to be able to quickly see student work, get through it quickly, provide feedback, and provide that kind of really timely feedback that's always been necessary for students to develop as good writers. So that's some stuff that isn't in the video and it's not on the slide. Now, let me shift to the slide. What the slide does is it goes a little bit deeper than what was shown in the video about what we're able to do in terms of showing you data and analytics, not just the work itself, about the process and about the work the students are doing. So for example, in an example of a research paper, we can show you how many students are on target and off target for different steps in the process, right? So how many students have started the research or not, started the paper or not, or met certain goals, like having a certain number of citations or words in the paper. And so really at a glance, you can get a sense of where students are. You can see, where folks are in the process, and more importantly, who might be stuck and at what point in the process they might be stuck. You could say, for example, that, hey, these are the 5 students that haven't even started the research yet, even though the paper is due in 3 days. That lets you know where you need to focus your time and energy. And then, of course, we've got data at the individual student level. We can show you that Jordan here has collected 6 articles. She has met the first goal of having 5 cited sources, on her way to meeting the goal of having 1,000 words in the paper. Susan here is a rock star because she's all in the green and she's already turned it in. And Kara here still has a lot of work left to do, right? All things that you want to know sooner rather than later, so that you can help them course correct or get unstuck if they're procrastinating or something like that. And so part of our philosophy is that we're trying to use the power of modern data and technology to give you information that can help you make better decisions more quickly about where students are and who you might want to focus your time and attention on. Historically, a lot of the way this work was done, as I showed on that slide about what happened with the pandemic, was that teachers and oftentimes librarians will decide that they're going to spend 5 minutes with every student looking at, let's say, their research articles this week, and then maybe next week they'll look at their outlines and so forth. The reality is, when you don't have data, you basically kind of have a cookie cutter approach, right? I'm going to spend 5 minutes with every student. But if you do have data, you can make different decisions. So you might say, for example, that, hey, I don't need to spend 5 minutes with everybody. I don't need to spend any minutes with Susan, but I might want to spend 10 minutes with Kara. Then that can really help you change how you spend your time with your students, and can be a game changer in terms of using your time more effectively when they're face-to-face in front of you. And then this last column is a little bit different from everything else. It actually gets to the kind of sources that they're using. So one of the things that we do at Scribble is that when you actually save information into our system, we're able to automatically bucket those sources into some major categories. So if we were in the actual app and I hovered over these different pie slices, you'd see that 2 of these articles are coming from government websites. One's a Wikipedia article, which might be a no-no in terms of quoting from a credible source. 2 are coming from academic websites and so forth. And so we can actually show you, if students are just using online sources, what kind of sources they're pulling from. But we're also compatible with a lot of the databases out there, like Gale and EBSCO and Britannica and some other things. And so, we can actually show you our students actually using those credible sources of information that you've spent, precious time and resources to purchase and train students on, or they just Googling it. And if they are using those databases, which particular databases are they using for the assignments? we can give you that level of depth and breadth to understand real sort of meaningful database usage, or are they just Googling it? And then of course we can show you here what kinds of websites they're pulling from. So it's pretty powerful stuff. It gives you kind of a level of access and insight that historically just hasn't been available in the research and writing process. I also have a very brief testimonial from one of your peers. So this is Emily Leonard, who's at Menominee Falls High Schools, and she's been with us for a few years. So I have a very brief, I think it's like 30 seconds or 40-second loom that she recorded for us that I'm going to play for you as well.
Hi, I'm Emily Leonard, and I'm the library media specialist at Menominee Falls High School. We recently began using Scribble, and so far we've used it in the English classes at all of the levels for their research projects. And so far we have been loving using Scribble. The teachers have remarked to me what a game changer it is for their research because it saves both them time and it saves so much time for their students. Students are easily able to annotate web pages and PDF documents in their Scribble libraries, where they can also create outlines and bibliographies and works cited. So Scribble's been a total game changer for our research process, and we are super excited to be using it. Hi.
Oops. Right. So there's one of your own who kind of speaks to the specifics of how they're using it at her school and what the teachers there think of it. And then, just to kind of close out the overview, I wanted to kind of point out that when you focus on research and writing, these are the kinds of modern skills students have to master in this modern information age we live in. It's certainly written to a lot of state and national standards. It's the kind of work they have to do in a big way when they go to college, where they might be writing college term papers or knowledge economy jobs, where they might be writing market research reports or grant proposals, RFP responses, that kind of stuff. Our sweet spot tends to be grades 6 through 12, and I would say humanities and general science. These are the specific kinds of programs or projects that you may be involved in at your school that we plug into very nicely. And these are the kinds of general initiatives that I think we support really nicely. And that last one, college and career readiness, is a really strong focus for us. One of the reasons being that we built Scribble in such a way that when students graduate from high school, they can actually associate a personal email address with their account and take their data and their account with them to college, which is pretty unique for a K-12 app. You don't typically see that. And we've had district leaders say, hey, it's great that you don't sort of abandon our kids when they leave us. It's nice that they know that they can continue to use this resource when they get to college. So I know we're kind of low on time, but I just wanted to quickly hit what I think is kind of the hot topic of the moment. As you probably know, ChatGPT and AI is kind of all the talk right now. I would say in tech circles, maybe even sort of general society, but particularly in education. One of the reasons is that there's a concern, and a lot of educators are asking, how will I know if my students actually wrote their papers, right? And their concern is basically that when students use something like ChatGPT to sort of write their papers or significant chunks of it, they're bypassing the productive struggle that's always been needed for them to practice critical thinking and develop this cognitive skills that I mentioned earlier that you usually see in the classic writing process. And one of the things that a lot of people are hoping for and depending on is that some of these new AI detection algorithms that are being put out by Turnitin and by some other new products that are being launched, that those things are going to kind of help because they'll catch students that have used ChatGPT to do that kind of AI plagiarism, if you want to call it that. And the answer is to that question, like, can this actually help me and help our teachers, is that it's early and it's hard to say. The reviews have been kind of mixed, but this approach actually has some problems. One of the problems with kind of relying on these detection algorithms to catch the stuff is that it's a moving target, right? The AI is actually developing. I think when a lot of this stuff was first developed, it was developed against GPT 3.5, and now 4.0 is out. And AI, as you all know, is kind of evolving very, very quickly. So anything that's trying to catch that is going to be sort of playing catch up. And I think ultimately it's going to be challenging for this approach to kind of keep up. And also, we're no longer just talking about ChatGPT. Google's launched Google Bard, which is their version, and there's other folks working on other versions as well. And so I think inevitably there is already starting to be, and there will continue to be, an arms race between AI and the AI detectors. There's also some really specific problems that have kind of emerged. One is that there's been examples of non-trivial false positives coming up, which means that, unfortunately, if you are relying on this mechanism of solving this problem, you're going to end up accusing kids that have actually done the work of cheating, which is always obviously kind of problematic and a horrible feeling. And the other issue is that it actually turns out that you can actually manipulate the AI to make the writing look more human, which makes it really hard to detect then using this sort of approach of using an AI detection algorithm. So two really specific examples to kind of drive some of those issues at the end that I mentioned home. Here's an example, and it's not large sample size because there's a bunch of these anecdotal examples, but we've sort of seen these examples emerge. This is an example of small sample size where they basically ran a text from real students and text that was generated by ChatGPT through an AI detection system called GPT-0. And it caught a lot of it, but 20% of it didn't catch, and it actually made it look, it basically falsely accused students that had actually done the work that they cheated. And so, on a small sample size, you don't think it's a big problem, but when you kind of multiply that across a school or a district, that becomes a lot of difficult conversations and a lot of time wasted. So that's an example. And then I think this example is really interesting. This is an example I pulled off of Reddit, which talks about a student who wrote a paper and put it through GPT-0, which is that example I just used on the previous slide, of a paper that was written by ChatGPT, and of course it caught it. But then the student basically asked it to rewrite the paper, asked ChatGPT to rewrite the paper as if it was written by a high school student, and it added several grammatical errors and spelling errors, and then it ran right through the AI detection algorithm. And so from a technology standpoint, I think this is a very hard problem to solve, because at the end of the day, the AI can kind of rewrite the paper however you ask it to. And if you ask it to look more human, it can do that. And then it's going to be harder and harder for these AI detection algorithms to catch this kind of stuff. So we at Scribble think we can help with this. And the main reason for this is that if you think about the way that the AI detection algorithms are trying to solve the problem, that problem exists and it's hard for them to solve if you only look at the text in the document, right? But if you focus on writing as a process, which is what good writing instructors have always asked us to do, and not just focus on the end work product or the text in the document, this becomes a solvable problem. And that's really what Scribble enables. And the reason for that is, now that you see what we do, we are with the student through the whole writing process, and we can help them basically curate their articles, annotate their evidence, organize that in their library with their tags, create an outline, create a bibliography. We even integrate into Google Docs and Microsoft Word. And so through the whole process, we can help students we basically help produce research and writing artifacts that become proof of authentic work that they've actually done that work, right? And so in short, what we're able to do is we're able to help for writing what we've always asked students to do in math, which is to show your work. And when you see that they've actually done those steps and there's evidence of that, then you have confidence that they've actually gone through that productive struggle that we've always asked them to do. And that kind of really becomes a solvable problem then in a way that I think the AI detection algorithms don't offer. And by the way, I think it's also interesting and important to say that if you can actually approach the problem this way, which is really looking at the process and evaluating the process, that's better than just sort of using a plagiarism detector as kind of a compliance tool. I think it's better to say to students, hey, don't take, there's a difference between saying, don't take the shortcut, and don't take the shortcut, and oh, by the way, here's a set of tools that helps you do the right thing. I think that can remove some of the temptation around wanting to take the shortcut, and it becomes something that's more instructional and support oriented, as opposed to just a compliance tool that it becomes a slap on the wrist. So if this is something that you all are thinking about or talking about and is a hot topic in your schools, please reach out to us at contact@scribble.com, and we'd be happy to help you with it, because I think it is something that we can offer a different way to approach this problem. And then, of course, all of you probably know this, but we're a WiLS partner, and certainly Scribble is an eligible expense to be used for use of common school funds, as well as ESSER funds under the CARES Act. So if you're looking to work with us, which a number of Wisconsin schools are already doing and districts are already doing, we'd love to work with you. And there's some ways that you can kind of fund our work together. So I think I'll stop there, and maybe I'll just let Karen come back on screen if she wants to just say hello, but then we'll otherwise hand it back to Jeff.
Hi, I'm Karen. I'm new with Scribble. I've been here for, well, almost half a year. And my background is in education. I was an educator for 22 years. And so I am here in Scribble to help you with any kind of training or any kind of special assistance that you need. If you're having struggles or if you just want to learn more, we have open office hours Monday through Thursday at varying times. We also offer private sessions where you can work directly with me to potentially create an assignment or to just have a refresher course. And we also have group sessions that we offer. So anytime you need any of those are always in my signature. I'm also going to be following up on this email or on this session with an email from me, so that if you ever wanted to schedule a time with me, you'll have that availability.
Thanks, Karen. And I put Karen's email in the chat here in case anybody needs to see it later. Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. Sorry, I know we went a little over.
No problem. Thank you, Victor and Karen, for joining us. Always exciting to see what's up at Scribble and to help spread the word. And I will say thanks to everyone for attending today. It has been another great Taco Tuesday. We have, we're doing 2 a month. And because of the way May and June line up, we're actually going to go 3 weeks now before I see you again. I know all of my loyal viewers are going to just be desperate to see me after 3 weeks, but we'll be coming back with another Taco Tuesday on June 6th. So thanks to everyone who is watching live and who is watching the recording, and we'll see you in June. Take care. Bye now.